I want to talk about the dangers of oversimplifying biblical things. And I want to use, for an example, two terms. One is exegesis, and the other term is eisegesis. There's no book for eisegesis because that is a thing that isn't to be learned, but it's a thought that we're supposed to guard ourselves from. Now, exegesis usually has the premises and actually means to bring out. And so when we're reading scripture, exegesis is bringing out the meaning of what the scripture means. That's a basic idea of it. And there's three premises that are basic that you normally hear is context. We all hear that term. And the second one is that language has rules. And the third is to do what you understand through scripture. What's being brought out, we are to do. And those are basic premises. And because of oversimplifying exegesis, it gives birth to the idea of eisegesis. Now, eisegesis is reading scripture and making scripture mean what you want it to mean. And that's the idea of eisegesis. And that is wrong. It shouldn't be done that way. But what I've found is that the oversimplification of this gives birth to the idea that most people, when you hear them say, oh, well, you're teaching, or that person is teaching eisegesis, you're making scripture mean or sound what you want it to mean. It gives birth to the idea that, well, that scripture might mean that to you, but it means something different for me. The reason people have that idea, that thinking, those types of feeling, is because of the oversimplification of scripture, the oversimplification of exegesis. And I want to talk more about this idea because what I found is the people that use the term eisegesis, most of them, not all of them, but most of the time, they're using it because they have the lack of understanding. They have the oversimplification of what exegesis is. And I want to go more in depth into this. But that's the danger of oversimplification, is that people aren't educated, people are no longer learning. They're taking little bits of this and little bits of that and applying it to things. And in reality, they're saying, oh, that's eisegesis. But in a sense, they're doing the same thing when they're not studying, when they're not learning more. When they live off of oversimplified facts, oversimplified biblical things, they themselves think and speak in ways that would fit eisegesis, because they're going to say, well, the scripture may mean that to you, but it doesn't mean that to me. Or they'll read the scripture for like they're reading a novel. And you can only understand a novel based on the story. When it comes to the Bible, it goes much deeper than that, because the Bible is just not a story, but it's living, it's breathing, it's got attitude, it's got emotions, it's got life. So let's go further into this, and I will discuss more on oversimplification, the dangers of it, and where we have to have balance, that we don't overcomplicate things. So we'll talk about this some more. God bless you.